Welcome in. It is Clippers Talk. How many days has it been since October 4th? The last time I missed an episode here. 112 days. We have gone 112 days straight with episodes, with new content for you here on Clippers Talk. Appreciate your guys' support. Subscribe, hit the like button. It's your prerogative. Do whatever you want. But I know I do these episodes, these lives randomly, and nobody knows when they're happening. So even myself sometimes, just go and hit that little alarm bell or the notification button so you know when we go live. I appreciate everybody in here and you guys rolling with me for 112 days straight of Clippers Talk episodes for you here. After the Clippers' 17-point victory last night over the Washington Wizards at Intuit Dome, 110-93 was the final. And the Clippers did exactly what I asked. They went 2-2 with a win over the Lakers in this 4 games in 5-night stretch. The first 4 and 5 in the NBA in the last 2 seasons. So it wasn't by design. And initially coming into this season with the fires in Los Angeles, it became necessary. And the Clippers ended up going 500 with a win over the Lakers, the team of the Western Conference they played during this 4 and 5. They handled business. Last night's game was a little bit disappointing. I got to say, that second half, I didn't like the energy or the lack of energy that was out there. J-Dog said first. Kaylee said, "What's up, Adam?" "What's up, Kaylee?" J-Dog said, "No days off." Adam, let's get it. No days off for me. No days off for AI Adam.
I'm so lonely. Please help me.
Is the Bucks preview today too? We'll talk a little bit about the Milwaukee Bucks here. Yes, Kaylee and J-Dog in the chat first. We're going to hear from Lawrence Frank because he was on with FanDuel TV last night with Brian Sieman and Jim Jackson on the Clippers local feed for about 10 minutes. I have the audio. We will review it, dissect it, go through some of the chit chat. I know they were having some fun there. In fact, there was something that Lawrence Frank brought up that I got to find on the YouTube side here. But first, I do want to start with giving you guys a little bit more from Coach Lue last night after that Clippers 110-93 victory over the Washington Wizards, because I was tough on them post game. I think I was fair, though, too. I just didn't like the process in the second half of the ball game. After the first couple of minutes of the third quarter, the Clippers were doing the bare minimum of work, of effort out there, and it looked like they were going through the motions, and they just wanted that game to be over because they were up by 22 at the half. I didn't like seeing that. That's bad process. You can build bad habits. That stuff can come back to bite you later on. So here was more from Coach Lue post-game last night, kind of saying similar things to what I said in the second half of the game and post-game. How do you evaluate this game? Brad Turner with the question.
Not a big game for us, just a win. We didn't play particularly well.
Not a good game for us, just a win.
Just a win. We didn't play particularly well. Didn't execute, loose with the basketball. But we did some good things as well, but it wasn't one of our best games. I thought, like last night, I thought we played better, but it is a win,
I mean, that's what's interesting about this. That's the nuance of this. They played better and lost against Boston. They played worse and won against the Wizards. It's just about the opponent. That's why I say a win is never a win. A loss is never a loss. You have to contextualize these things because the Clippers didn't play great last night. They had the talent advantage greatly in their favor, but they didn't also bring the hustle, the work ethic in the second half. They didn't play the right way. There was a lack of, I would say, professionalism at times in the second half with the way they were going about running their offense. It was a team that looked like they knew they were up big against the Washington Wizards. They knew they were playing the worst team in the league, and they knew they could get away with not operating and running on all cylinders. That's what was disappointing. I don't think it's a huge deal long term. These games do happen, But last night was one of them. So I had to talk about it. More from Coach Lou.
But it is a win. We'll take it, but we got to start stacking wins. But we got to start, executing the right way. And I don't think we did a good job with that tonight.
See, that's what I'm talking about. What did you learn? How did you grow last night? Where did you get better? I don't know if we can say in any areas with any certainty the Clippers did. I think they got by because they were playing the worst team in the league and they had their D- game out there, the Clippers. And so you can get away with playing like that against the Wizards. It's not going to work tomorrow against Milwaukee. You play like that, you're getting beat. Maybe run off the floor. Because offensively, that was just your turn, my turn. Maybe we'll hit a couple of threes here, and that will save us from any Wizards runs. We'll have some run outs, some cherry picking on the other end. Just low effort plays by the Clippers, doing as little as possible to exert themselves and win that game, and not going through the proper steps of playing hard every possession, cutting hard, running your offense. That was disappointing to me. I got to be honest about that.
Ty, yes. 18 turnovers, or I think more than half were live ball turnovers. What was it that Washington was doing, and you guys were just being careless with the ball?
Just being careless. They're aggressive. They pressure, and they do a good job of competing. They're going to play hard. They're going to compete. They have pride. No matter what their record is, they play hard. They compete. And so coming to the game, we knew that. But we were just, relaxed with the basketball. Like you said, allowing live ball turnovers, which allowed us to get out of transition. We couldn't even get back. So we just got to be better.
A lot of unserious turnovers out there last night from the Clippers. Didn't like seeing that. I think James Harden ended up with 6 of them, 13 assists, but 6 turnovers, and just it's lackadaisical play. And it ended up being, 13 assists to 6 turnovers for James. So he had a third of their turnovers last night. Clippers with 18 leading to 21 points for the Wizards. They had it down to 12 around the 8-minute mark of the fourth quarter. The Clippers brought the starters back in, and within 3 minutes, they were up 21 again. So when they got pushed, when they needed to flip the switch and perform better and play harder, they did. And a lot of that was just Norman Powell hitting threes, getting layups. He had 16 points, 16 of his 22 in the fourth quarter. So again, you're just relying on individual greatness and the talent advantage being on your side instead of playing the right way, playing Clippers basketball and building and getting better, improving, making progress, doing stuff that is going to help you the next time out. Yeah, I know a lot of people will say, well, what can you learn against the worst team in the league? You can still play your style of basketball and run them off the floor. And every possession you can go hard. And it should be more about you than the opponent, is what I'm trying to say. And last night, I felt like they played in a way where they knew who the opponent was. They knew what they had to do to get by. But that stuff is not going to translate against better teams. For instance, what they did against Brooklyn, winning by 59, a bad team. Not as bad as the Washington Wizards, but a bad team. The Clippers took every possession seriously. There was a concerted effort out there to run their offense, to be great every possession. Last night, I didn't see that. And that's why the score was closer than it should have been.
You guys were up 22 at the half, 27 early in the third, and the turnovers piled up. They were able to kind of get it back down to, I believe, 15. 12, excuse me, 12. How hard is it to keep a team focused going into the half when they're up by as much as you guys were, and kind of trying to get them to focus on possession by possession rather than playing what the score is?
We talk about it coming in, we're up, big at halftime, just having a mindset the first 6 minutes of having a defensive mindset. And I thought we did that early on. And then after that, we just got, careless and taking bad shots, not, letting the game, play out. And so, we talk about at halftime, you can't dictate who's going to get the shots if you're playing basketball the right way, and so I don't think we did that the second half of the third all the way through.
I want to hear that one more time. I think this is important.
Don't get the shots if you play a game, play out. And so, we talk about at halftime, you can't dictate who's going to get the shots if you're playing basketball the right way.
You can't dictate who's going to get the shots if you're playing basketball the right way. Meaning it's not just, okay, now it's this guy's turn. It's you're playing within the offense, and those options present themselves out there based upon playing the game the right way. It happens to end up in this guy's hands or this guy's hands. It's natural. It's organic. It's not forced. Last night, it was just, all right, Norm, take a shot. Kawhi, take a shot. Let's get this over with. Yeah, they did look a little bit complacent out there, Garrett. You said one of the first games last night that the Clips looked complacent and lazy, totally uncharacteristic, and hopefully it's a one-off. I agree. On another note, that Wizards team is all-time bad. They are. They have 6 victories on the season. They're in the Cooper Flag sweepstakes. But the important part of, I think, what Garrett said is, and I do want to reemphasize this was the outlier. This was the exception to what we've seen with the Clippers throughout most of the season. And that's why it stood out so much. And that's why I just wanted to underscore and highlight the lowlights in that game. Be like, hey, this is not the right way to play. And it really stands out because the Clippers have, for the most part, not played down to their opponents, not gotten complacent. They have played with the right spirit and energy, the requisite spirit and energy of a professional team. Even though it's a long season, even though it's a 4-5, I still expected more from them last night in that respect. But they win against Milwaukee. Even if they lose but play the right way, I just don't want to see this turn into a pattern or a trend or anything like that. So nip it in the bud, right? That's what this is about.
So I don't think we did that the second half of the third all the way through.
Ty, James had his 79th career triple-double today. I think 8th all-time.
Okay, we heard the rest of it here from Coach Lou. I'll play some Kawhi Leonard sound from last night post-game, and then we'll hear from Lawrence Frank on FanDuel TV in the first half. Here's Kawhi.
Kawhi, when you look at this last streak, with the 6 and 9 or whatever the stretch you guys have had, how do you guys feel like you kind of just fared through this just tough streak you guys had?
I think we did a good job. We won some games. Yesterday they pushed them pretty hard in that game.
Let me see if I can find a better audio feed of this.
We won some games. Yesterday they pushed them pretty hard in that game with Boston, pushing it to overtime. Still got a tough schedule ahead of us. That's what the NBA is about.
Well, a few of your former teammates on their podcasts and different shows and whatnot have talked about how good it is seeing you back and just mentioned messages that they sent you as you were working your way back. And then even Braun said something similar the other day in the Lakers locker room. What has it been like to have that support from guys that you played with and even guys you haven't played with?
It's good hearing it. They know who I am. Most of them are my old teammates or teammates now. And, if they see me moving well, they're saying that I'm playing well, gives you that extra confident boost.
We saw you give James a round of applause when he passed Wilt for 8th on the triple-double list. Watching his career a few years ahead of you, what does it mean to you to be able to share the floor with him when he's sort of setting record after record?
Say something nice, boy.
I'm guessing that's James Harden in the background. Say something nice, Kawhi.
Or setting record after record.
Say something nice, boy.
Really don't think about it when you're playing, but like you said, when they start announcing it, you said it before, one-of-a-kind player helped change the game. Just, like I said, as the season goes, he's gonna keep passing those guys, and his work ethic, puts him in this spot. So he's keep working, and he's gonna keep passing guys up.
When I asked
James Harden just hitting milestone after milestone with this Clippers team. Last night was his 79th career triple-double. He surpassed Wilt Chamberlain for the 8th most triple-doubles in NBA history.
Ty about James's rebounding. He said it's amazing considering he jumps this high off the floor. Is his rebounding as a guard?
You said what?
That's pretty damn funny from Kawhi. You said what? Tomer Zarley here having some fun because Coach Lou talked about, how little James Harden gets off the floor, yet he still gets these triple doubles. He's still a great rebounding guard, an all-time great rebounding guard.
Floor. When I asked Ty about James's rebounding, he said it's amazing considering he jumps this high off the floor. Is his rebounding as a guard?
You said what? You said what?
Is his rebounding as a guard impressive considering, as Ty said, he jumps?
Kawhi's so unintentionally funny sometimes. I can't take it.
You said what?
Is his rebounding as a guard impressive considering, as Ty said, he jumps?
Is his rebounding
impressive as a guard?
Of course. That's how he's getting triple doubles. Got to rebound the ball, and he's been doing it for a long time.
Very matter of fact, of course, that's how he's getting triple doubles.
Ty mentioned pregame that the difference he's seen in you since the first couple of games is like mentally that you seem like you're basically able to fully trust your body after the first few games. Is it like that mental hurdle for you? How big of a deal is that to kind of get to where you can actually?
I think this is a really good question here from Justin Russo. I talked about it post game last night, but guys, that dunk he had with the right hand in the first half, going past his defender, I think it was his first bucket of the ball game, his first dunk of the season. I believe that's the first dunk he has had since that alley-oop he caught from Paul George in Game 3 in Dallas last season, where he was swinging from the rim afterwards and waiting for his momentum to slow down so then he could drop to the floor safely and not exacerbate the injury and the swelling going on in his right knee. He was scared, it looked like, to fall to the floor. And the referees did not give him a technical for hanging on the rim because they seem to know the situation going on with Kawhi and the injury then and why he was doing it. So last night to me was significant in that way that he had 2 dunks, and it's the first time since the playoff series.
That you seem like you're basically able to fully trust your body after the first few games. Is it like that mental hurdle for you? How big of a deal is that to kind of get to where you can actually trust your body?
I felt like I did the first game. I just wasn't about to be super aggressive. I'm taking my time, and like I said before, I'm taking the right steps. I'm not going to just jet out at 100%.
That also is notable. I'm not just going to jet out at 100%. Whenever people go after Kawhi Leonard, and this has happened since he's been a Clipper, when it looks like he's moving more slowly out there, and they say this is MJ Wizards, this is Wizards MJ version of Kawhi, he's washed and all this, he's always going at his own pace, and he picks his spots, and there is a ramp-up process, and that is still what we're seeing right now with him. He's moving well. Definitely, I would say he's exceeded my expectations movement-wise with how he's looked out there. But there's still levels that Kawhi can get to. And last night was some progress, just seeing a couple of dunks.
I'm not going to just jet out at 100%, full usage, and take it steady and slow and keep building.
What do you need to see in everyone else to increase your minutes?
What do I need to see?
Yeah. Anything at all? And what do the team want to see?
I need to see more games under my belt. And then
he almost laughs there. It looks like it's kind of like the question he got when they were down 0-2 in the Eastern Conference Finals to the Milwaukee Bucks in 2019 with the Raptors. They're like, where do you go from here? The reporter was trying to be all dramatic. Where do you go from here? And Kawhi just said, we go back to Toronto.
What do I need to see?
Yeah, anything at all? And what do the team want to see?
I need to see more games under my belt, and then minutes will go up.
How did you feel to get the first couple dunks of the season tonight?
Now, him saying I need to see more games under my belt and then minutes will go up could be him showing his hand a little bit because I made the prediction earlier yesterday that I think minutes might go up against Milwaukee on Saturday. But he just said, I need to see more games and then minutes will go up. So maybe, and who knows, if he feels good today, maybe the minutes do go up, and this isn't really a read on anything, but maybe it's something that it's still more games need to be played for Kawhi before they ramp up from 24 minutes to 28 or 30.
Take it steady and slow and keep building.
What do you need to see and everyone else to increase your minutes?
What do I need to see?
Yeah, anything at all? And what do the team want to see?
I need to see more games under my belt, and then minutes will go up.
How did you feel to get the first couple dunks of the season?
I'm just gonna see if I can find Kawhi. Where do you go from here? Because it's too funny to me. Like it's just an all timer. Yeah, this is what he does with the Raptors.
From here, Kawhi, where do you go from here?
I'm going to Toronto, game 3.
Where do you go from here, Kawhi?
From here, Kawhi, where do you go from here?
I'm going to Toronto, game 3.
From here, Kawhi, where do you go from here?
I'm going to Toronto, game 3.
All right. Back to last night.
I said before, I'm taking a keep building.
What do you need to see and everyone else to increase your minutes?
What do I need to see?
Yeah, anything at all? And what do the team want to see?
I need to see more games under my belt, and then minutes will go up.
How did you feel
Kawhi is low key the funniest person in the NBA.
to get the first couple dunks of the season tonight?
Now, there we go. Lob Murray asking him about the first 2 dunks.
The first couple dunks of the season tonight.
I don't think about that, man. But I guess it's exciting, but for the long journey.
He doesn't think about it. It's exciting. He's for the long journey. All right, before we get to Lawrence Frank's sounds here, I do want to remind you today's episode of Clippers Talk is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is the easiest way to play fantasy sports, and it's available in over 30 states. All you got to do is pick higher or lower on your favorite player stats or least favorite player stats, and you can win up to 100 times your money. Make picks, win money, and I got a free promo code for you guys here. Clippers Talk listeners, we got you a free promo code, and it'll give you, if you're a new user, a free pick and up to $1,000 in bonus cash. The promo code is LAC. You can find it and the referral link in the description below in this very episode. And then, you go to Underdog Fantasy, you look at tonight's ball games. Hey, the Cleveland Cavaliers, they're in Philadelphia taking on the Sixers. Do you want to go higher or lower on Paul George on 19.5 points? I'm going to go lower, I think, in this case. We know PG-13, the Philadelphia 76ers have been struggling, and he's going up against a guy he struggled against back in that first-round series with the Oklahoma City Thunder and Donovan Mitchell. And you can go higher or lower on 25.5 points for Spida, who's been playing a little bit better. I would go higher there. It's simple. It's easy. That's how it works. Make picks, win money, Underdog Fantasy. All right, let's hear from Lawrence Frank. This was him on in the first half with Brian Sieman, with Jim Jackson on FanDuel TV.
Oxygen tank is out in front by 10, 30-20 over the Washington Wizards. We mentioned it back in the first quarter. We are very lucky to be joined by President of Basketball Operations, Mr. Lawrence Frank. You made the nice journey up here. Do you need an oxygen tank? Can I get you something while you make it up here?
May you rest in peace, but I'm glad they gave you the euchre seats. These are unbelievable, but this is...
Okay, so we are a little bit higher up at Intuit Dome. Ain't nobody complaining, just having fun with it. A little bit higher up, but of course, at Intuit Dome, there's not a bad seat in the house. So, Brian, having some fun there.
Make it up here?
May you rest in peace, but I'm glad they gave you the euchre seats. These are unbelievable, but this is proof there literally is no bad seat in this building.
So, we'll talk about Intuit Dome in just a minute, but, Ben, the Clippers come in here at 24-19. In my most optimistic view, I didn't feel that you'd be 5 games over 500 at the midway point. Even with a Kawhi Leonard playing, let's pretend he played 20 of those games. I thought it'd be a struggle. Tell me what you think of this start. This has been a really great first half of the season.
It really has been, and all the credit to the players and the coaching staff. The vision for the team was to be a tough, competitive, deep, defensive-minded team. The only way you can do that is to make sure the personnel resembles kind of what the vision is.
Yeah, how about that? A tough-minded defensive team. Lawrence Frank was cooking this offseason. I told you when it happened. Check the receipts. I told you he was cooking with the team he constructed. It gave them a much higher floor out there. Lawrence Frank. I love Lawrence Frank. I think he's been great for this ball club, and I love the way they constructed this roster.
And then having master coaching, you've talked a lot about T. Lou, and obviously Jeff Van Gundy has had a huge impact along with the rest of our coaching staff, but just really, really proud of our guys. The leadership that James, Norm, and Zoo have brought to the group every day.
Underrated. I don't know if I've talked about that enough. The leadership from those three. With Kawhi only playing 6 games, and those three holding it down, not just on the court, but as locker room leaders. Guys who hadn't been in that role before. James Harden has, but Norm hasn't. Now he's empowered because he's one of the guys. He's a starter. Big Zoo, still just 27, but one of the most important players on this Clippers team. This is all part of addition by subtraction. You get different guys in different roles in a leadership aspect too.
The defensive buy-in from everyone, I think huge additions with Chris Dunn and Derek Jones Jr., bringing Nico back, along obviously with stalwarts like Terrence. Amir continues to ascend. So there's so many great stories to put us in this position, because many people thought without Kawhi that we'd have no chance to be in this position. And I think now we have a much higher ceiling because we've established who we are, what we do, by and large, every night.
That's what I've been telling you guys. Like, they know who they are and how they want to play more than the opponent does. Their identity is more crystallized than the opposition's on most nights. That's been the big advantage for this Clippers team.
Well, you talk about story, and I think the big story for people, the fans of the game and the Clippers, is the process with Kawhi and how the ramp up takes place. When will it increase? And to me, it's how do you evaluate that?
Yeah, you know what we've done is, and obviously we have a lot of history with Kawhi now.
Save that real quick, because that's a tease, because we're going to take a timeout, and we'll come back, then we'll address that when we come back.
You're pretty good at this stuff.
I've been doing it for a little while, that Ohio State education.
Smooth from Jim Jackson.
Well, welcome back. Clippers up by 19, 39-20. But we're sitting here with Lawrence Frank, President of Operations, here with the Clippers. And we were just discussing Kawhi Leonard and kind of the ramp up the process, the thought process. Playing time. How you begin to increase his playing time.
Well, let me make sure I get this right here.
Here with the Clippers. And we were just discussing Kawhi Leonard and kind of the ramp up the process, the thought process behind about how you begin to increase his playing time.
Yeah, we use all objective data, and obviously we have a lot of history, a long history with Kawhi now, and so we have a pretty good sense for what works, what doesn't work, and some of the things along the way that, okay, where are areas where we can improve, and what we said is we're going to take a very step-by-step measured approach, and with each benchmark, then we'll increase the activity. Kawhi, as most people know, he's a maniacal worker, so it's about kind of controlling it. And even now, as we're still in the final phase of the rehab phase, and that's why kind of controlling the minutes.
Ooh, this is interesting.
Even now, as we're still in the final phase of the rehab phase.
The final phase of the rehab phase. So I think you could also interpret that as the ramp-up process. They've talked about this basically being a preseason so far for Kawhi Leonard. He's only at 24 minutes right now. I think he's been there the last 3 games. So the first 3 games at 20, last 3 games at 24. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, chat. But the final stage of the rehab phase here. So I wonder, as I have predicted, and I don't know anything. I'm just being hopeful, I guess, and it's a big game on Saturday against Milwaukee, and it's Giannis Antetokounmpo, but maybe his minutes increase a little bit more.
Even now, as we're still in the final phase of the rehab phase, and that's why kind of we're controlling the minutes. And then as he kind of clears those benchmarks, then the minutes will increase.
Well, let me ask you this. As good as he looks, does it tempt you to want to kind of speed up the process and get him more minutes because he looks so good and dominant at times?
Well, I think the kind of some of the lessons and some of these things you can't control, but the fact that just through some unfortunate luck, he hasn't been able to finish, for the last 5 postseasons, that then controls your temptations, because it is about the big picture that we feel and look objectively. Kawhi was second team All-NBA last year, that he's one of the best players in the world when healthy. And we really want to give him the best situation and the team the best situation where we can be at our best at the end of the year.
That's what it's all about, guys. When people get frustrated on here and say, why didn't he play more or play in the fourth quarter? It's like, because of the big picture and prior history. Hasn't been able to finish the last 4 seasons. How on earth can you push him in January? You're trying to have him available and peaking and at his best in the biggest moments, when the lights are the brightest, the stage is the biggest. That would be in the playoffs. So, come on. How can you disagree with this approach by the Clippers here? More from Lawrence Frank.
Let me ask you this. Now we're
sorry, Brian Sieman.
Let me ask you this. Now we're midway through the season. Obviously, coming into this year, into a dome was really kind of a headliner thing. So from an advantage standpoint, from what have you noticed now that you've been here for several months? What are the advantages? What are the perks of having this arena, not just having this great court and this great crowd, but beyond that we may not see every day?
It is an immense source of pride. This is the greatest arena in the world.
Completely agree. I've been telling you guys, no better place in the world to watch a basketball game.
I have the great fortune to be able to travel all over the world to watch games, and there's nothing like this place. And the ultimate validation for our fans, and we have unbelievable fans. And Steve's vision, like this is the embodiment of his commitment to fans and for players. You see the wall every night, the energy, and then all our fans bring in. It's kind of like a peer pressure thing. The wall does their thing, and then all of a sudden you look, it's like a mirror. And our players appreciate so much.
The wall is kind of leading the charge there. I like that.
And our players appreciate so much. I thought the game against the Lakers, it was a great kind of pride of place moment. Every opponent we come in, invariably the front office or the coaches will ask for a tour, and they're blown away. They've never seen anything like it. And not just the arena, but what Steve has done, practice facility, and given our players and staff the best professional experience of their lives, and our fans to give them an experience second to none.
I concur. We had the Washington broadcast crew was sitting right next to us yesterday, and one of the gentlemen there was like, this is distracting, the Halo board. Like, it's so overwhelmingly cool, it's distracting. And that's how I felt at first, the first 5 or so games. Like, I was almost forgetting reads to do because I know what needs to be done coming back from the break. But by the time we get there, I get some graphic on the board or a game that's being played on the Halo board, and I'm like, what, the dog and up? I'm like, what? Squirrel. Like, I'm just distracted by the beauty of the arena, the Halo board, the accoutrements, the features. It's just sensory overload in the best way possible.
Well, I just want to know, you went to Indiana, right? You went to Indiana, right?
Yeah,
you did go to Indiana. That's part of the Big Ten, right?
Yeah, no, a lot of times, we like seeing, Ohio State was like our little brother. Yeah,
right, yeah, that's okay. But speaking of...
Ooh, we got some smoke here. Big Ten smoke.
Little brother. Yeah.
Right, yeah, that's okay. But speaking of little brother, is there anything you want to say to me?
Well...
no, seriously. Like, I want you to perk up a little bit when you say it.
Hey, a road win's a road win, and but, we're playing the long game.
No. But something just took place on Monday. I don't know if you saw it.
I only follow basketball.
Jim Jackson trying to point out Ohio State, of course, win the national championship over Notre Dame.
Oh, I love that. I just love that answer. That's like that is the greatest.
That's what they.
Here's how Lawrence Frank deflected.
I don't know if you saw it.
I only follow basketball. I only follow basketball.
Oh, I love that. I just
so
love that
full of
answer.
stuff.
That's
You
like,
just
that is the greatest.
That's what they teach you. Deflect at Indiana. They teach you to deflect.
That's it. Yeah, no, I just, we just focus on what really
But
matters.
Indiana was in the CFP.
What's that?
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. You're a smarter guy than me. I just remember our years when you were at Ohio State and I was at Indiana.
Okay, all right.
A common foul. There's no wind-up
Thank you for the
impact.
Thank you for the
Significant follow-through. It's
congratulations.
going to be 2 free throws.
I actually believe Lawrence doesn't know that college football exists. I actually believe that.
He knows.
There's some elite banter here.
He knows.
Did Ohio State do something?
It's okay. Don't worry.
We
It's not.
did something special.
Well, but I do have an affinity for Ohio State because Coach Knight,
He's a
attended
Buckeye.
Ohio State, so he's a
That's right.
Buckeye, and Jimmy. Many nights, Jimmy gave us a lot of nightmares as a Buckeye.
So Jim Jackson, he's almost kind of a what if story in the NBA in this way. Jim Jackson, elite skill set. Jim Jackson, two-way player, could do it all. Maybe I'll ask him. I'll try to get him on at some point. But he came into the league, guys. He was averaging over 20 points early on. I mean, his third season, he's averaging 25 per game with Dallas, with the Triple J's. Jim Jackson is a bad boy. He's still had a very good, obviously, NBA career, but he never averaged more than 19 after that season. And it wasn't because of major injury or anything like that, to my knowledge. I always tell him he's an all-time favorite Sacramento Kings player for me, even though he was only there for one season. Obviously, if you guys know me, I grew up at NorCal. That's where I developed my Laker hate, rooting for the Sacramento Kings. 2002 Western Conference Finals took years off my life. They got 27 free throws in the fourth quarter, game 6. Yes, that's an accurate number. But Jim Jackson was such a badass that season, the 02-03 year, the year after. I loved the pickup with him. And I was hoping he was going to stay around forever, but he did kind of bounce around a little bit. Went to Houston, had good years there, finished with the Lakers in the 05-06 season. But Jim Jackson had real Hall of Fame type of talent out there. And of course, if you watched him at Ohio State, you would have known that too.
Attended Ohio State, so he's a Buckeye, and Jimmy. Many nights, Jimmy gave us a lot of nightmares as a Buckeye.
You also always have to play Jim Jackson first in NBA Jam. Jamal Mashburn. I always give him crap about that. Why I always got to play you guys first?
The trade deadline around the corner. Everybody always wants to know what teams are going to do, and I'm curious. I mean, as you bring Kawhi back into the fold, do you have a good sense of what you would be willing to do and how long-term it is for you guys? I know it's a tricky time of year for all front offices.
Very delicately put here by Brian Sieman. Well done.
Front offices.
Yeah.
Don't tell him I said that.
Front offices.
Yeah. Well, I think, one, we really like the group. And I think last night was a great example of the depth of the group and how competitive they are. And I think we're in a position now. Look, our job is you're always looking for opportunities, how you can improve the team. And I think you try to make the team as good as we can possibly be. And yet we also have a long-term vision.
This is it, guys. One eye on the present, one eye on the future.
Good as we can possibly. I think you try to make the team as good as we can possibly be. And yet we also have a long-term vision. But I think anytime you have someone like Kawhi and James, your ceiling can be raised significantly just because those guys are great players that can do it. So we like the group, and if there's opportunities to improve it, obviously we'll look at that.
Very interesting here. Let's listen to this one more time from Lawrence Frank.
How long-term it is for you guys. I know it's a tricky time of year for all front offices.
Yeah, well, I think, one, we really like the group. And I think last night was a great example of the depth of the group and how competitive they are. And I think we're in a position now. Look, our job is you're always looking for opportunities, how you can improve the team. And I think you try to make the team as...
My first takeaway is, can you improve the team without hurting your future prospects, without limiting yourself in the upcoming future? Those are the home run moves where you don't hurt flexibility moving forward And all you do is increase your ceiling for this season and maybe improve your situation for next year too. Those are the best type of moves that you can make.
And I think we're in a position now. Look, our job is you're always looking for opportunities, how you can improve the team. And I think you try to make the team as good as we can possibly be. And yet we also have a long-term vision.
So that part tells me they're not going to make a move that is all in for just this year, where they're giving up assets, young players that would hurt them financially or from a talent perspective and a flexibility standpoint years to come. They're not going to do that. And we knew that, but this is Lawrence Frank, I think, being somewhat direct here about it.
How you can improve the team. And I think you try to make the team as good as we can possibly be.
And I say somewhat direct because obviously they're not going to show their full hand. There's going to be negotiations going on. Some of this stuff can be posturing. It's fake report season or smoke season and smokes. Like there's so much to this stuff.
How you can improve the team. And I think you try to make the team as good as we can possibly be. And yet we also have a long-term vision. But I think anytime you have someone like Kawhi and James, your ceiling can be raised significantly just because those guys are great players that can do it. So we like the group.
So they also understand the responsibility of having Kawhi, having James Harden. They're trying to win a championship. So how do you balance that? You try to make moves that don't hurt you down the line, that aren't just for this season, that can help you this year, but also don't hurt you next year. Moves that are good for the present and for the future. That's the type of stuff you want to do. But I like the fact that he acknowledges, obviously, if you got Kawhi and James Harden, you do have a chance. So you can't ignore that.
Your ceiling can be raised significantly just because those guys are great players that can do it. So we like the group, and if there's opportunities to improve it, obviously we'll look at that.
So, some equivocating, he's not being, when I said somewhat direct, he's letting you in on what the big picture plan is for this Clippers team and this franchise right now. But he's obviously not giving away which way they're going, what direction they're going fully. But I think there's enough insight there to where, if you're a Clipper fan, in my opinion, you should be encouraged that they're going about this the right way. They're not going to double down or quadruple down at this point with this era if it's going to hurt them in the future, in the near future, because they could have a ton of roster, a ton of cap room moving forward in the next 2 seasons. So you have to look at that, guys who are going to be free agents in 2027, and you don't want to bring in somebody like, okay, Zach LaVine, for instance. So he has that big opt-in for $48 million the summer of 2027. That could really limit you. You go all in with him right now, it hurts you in the future. So you have to kind of take in all the information, consider all these factors when you're looking at improving for this season and trying to raise your ceiling. It can't come at the expense of, future years and lowering your floor, your ceiling down the line.
I'm not really surprised by anything outside of the Rockets and the Clippers. Rockets have been a great story, but the Clippers obviously defying a lot of odds because of that guy not playing in only 109 minutes coming into tonight. Yet you guys are 5 games over 5.
Guys, they are below both aprons. What are you talking about, Ross? They're already below the first apron. That's how they had the non-taxpayer mid-level exception to use, which they used most of that on Derrick Jones Jr. Like, they already are under the first apron. That was the benefit losing Paul George and then immediately using the non-taxpayer mid-level exception told you they'd be under the first apron because that caps you there once you use that. That's one of those tools. That's the exception that you get if you're under the first apron. So we knew right away in free agency that that's how they were operating, under the first apron. So when people tell you, well, they lost Paul George for nothing, and there's not a lot of that talk going on now because things are going so miserably, obviously, in Philadelphia, unfortunately for PG and Sixers fans. But when that was happening, it was never true because losing Paul George ended up getting them Derrick Jones Jr., Nico Batum, and Chris Dunn to some extent. So while they didn't trade him, they traded the ability. They basically traded for flexibility, and you can say indirectly it was Paul George for DJ, for Nico, for cap flexibility, and Chris Dunn. Like, I don't know what Ross is talking about here. Not until PJ is gone. It's like, my guy, they're not just under the second apron. They're under the first apron. They had the full exception. That's how they brought in DJ. Can anybody help him? We'll keep going.
Tonight, yet you guys are 5 games over 500 in a time where the Western Conference is as competitive as it can be. When you came into the offseason, knowing that obviously Paul George wasn't coming back, is it easier isn't the right word? Is it easier to find defensive-minded players to make that your identity than finding guys that can score in big bunches and growing that area from within?
Really good question here from Brian Sieman. I've always felt like this too. Typically, I think it is easier to build a defensive identity. Like that is more of the instant identity you can capture because offense is just so much more complex. Defensively, if you find the right guys that want to play hard, that want to buy in, that sometimes is all it takes.
Well, I don't know if it's easier, but I think it goes back to the core of who you are from an identity standpoint. And if you go back to 2017, 18, 2018, 19, that group was the fabric of who we are. Hard playing, tough, competitive, defensive-minded guys. And when you have guys that have a passion to work and a thirst to learn, a lot of times you can defy expectations. And we wanted to get back to our roots of who we are. And I think, we may not have the name brand defenders that we've had in the past, but yet, by and large, we're a whole lot more connected and competitive group than we've been. And, I don't think you can overlook just what James, Norm, and Zoo have done. I know there's been a lot of, and I hope all-star and rightfully so for those guys, competitive defense, because how many other teams in the Western Conference or in the league could you take away a player of the magnitude of Kawhi Leonard and have the record we have now?
That's what I was saying. What other team has only had their best player for 6 games? And is their best player, he was second team All-NBA last season, like one of the best players in the NBA. How many teams could you do that with where you only got your best player for 6 games and you're still a top 6 team in your conference? Like that is what the media, voters, fans need to understand. That's what makes this season so impressive. And I said this the other day when we had Lucas Hahn on. Don't call him Han. But I asked him the question, who you think is most responsible for what the Clippers record is so far this season? And he kind of hesitated and threw it back my way. And I didn't take much time to hesitate. I said Lawrence Frank. It's not that he's the only guy responsible, of course. I'm saying biggest slice of the responsibility pie for how their Clippers are 6 games above 500. I'm giving it to Lawrence Frank.
The record, the defensive rankings, and the identity without your best player it's insane. We've talked about it before throughout this season, and it is incredible. And I know you give a lot of credit to the players for buying in and the coaches, but the front office, you, Mark Hughes, Trent Redden, and I know you guys have a huge staff behind you guys as well. doing a lot of work. I mean, it's been a total team effort. And of course, Steve, I think letting Paul George go was the right choice, but for Steve Ballmer opening a new arena to let an all-star go, knowing full well that the long-term plan is different. And it really speaks to the entire organization.
Ooh, Brian is kind of cooking here.
It really speaks to the entire organization. I really believe that.
Yeah, and you mentioned it all starts at the top with Steve. We are so fortunate to have him as our chairman, and it goes way beyond his wealth, his competitiveness, along with his caring. We're really, really fortunate and blessed, and our players appreciate it. I know our staff appreciates it, and I think our fans, by what they bring every single night, and what they, and their commitment to being a Clipper fan, they appreciate it as well. Do you ever watch the game at all, or?
And now Brian has been cooked.
Do you ever watch the game at all, or?
Maybe I'll start using this instead of saying casuals. Not for Brian and Jim, but just when people are saying wild stuff in here, maybe I'll just use this clip from Lawrence Frank.
Do you ever watch the game at all, or do you guys just talk to each other?
We just talk.
Yeah, I figured. This is great. I mean, that's why Clipper fans are the smartest fans, because they have to figure out everything on their own.
But see, when you make baskets like Kawhi, you don't have to explain that. You don't have to explain that at all.
Because I don't know how you guys do it, because anytime you guys have me on, I never watch the game. And it's incredible.
Well, just because you're a wealth of knowledge is that, sometimes you forget the game is going on all the time. That Indiana University education.
Let me tell you something. I don't want to embarrass IU. They don't even want me to say I have any. Their own.
But see, when you make baskets like Kawhi, you don't have to explain that. You don't have to explain that at all.
Because I don't know how you guys do it. Because anytime you guys have me on, I never watch the game, and it's incredible.
Well, just because you're a wealth of knowledge is that, sometimes you forget the game is going on all the time. That Indiana University education.
Let me tell you something. I don't want to embarrass IU. They don't even want me to say I have any affiliation with the university. No one wants to claim me.
That's like me and Biola University.
Thank God, my number one goal in life is just be around people who are smarter than you, and I've been really fortunate to be around some really smart people.
I do one basketball question here. I've always said the player development here is excellent with Terrence Mann, Amir Coffey, but Zubac, the steps that he has taken this year, not just the scoring, but the trust that I think the team, the coaches has given him in that short role to make plays. How excited are you to see that and much more coming from Zoo?
You make a great point. One, you have to give Zoo a ton of credit for his commitment to work on his craft, and even playing for his native country in the summer, working with Jay Larranaga throughout the year, and I also think you have to give credit to James Harden. Just unlocking that short roll game. And then so much of this game, as it's about opportunity. And, with the decisions that we made in the offseason, it was going to give Zoo an unbelievable opportunity. And he ran right to it. So time into his game, the confidence he's given, T. Lou dialing up his number more, Zoo delivering, being able to be an unbelievable pick and roll partner with James, and the work that they've put in starting when we acquired James last year, you just see it pay off. The other thing that we really, really value with him is he loves to play. Like he is trying, he was so pissed off about his eye. He made Rocky, I was looking for Mickey, can someone cut the eye?
Right.
But it pissed him off because he wanted to play 82 games. And he takes great pride in being available for the team. And you're so happy for a guy like that. And I know maybe he doesn't get the same all-star conversations, that maybe James and Norm do. But he's really worthy of what he's done. And I think he's made himself a heck of a player.
You can't say pissed off on TV. I don't know. You're going to get an FCC violation there, but that's fine.
Well, let me tell you something. That is very mild, because I've had some previous TV appearances where it hasn't gone as smoothly as this one, maybe. I don't know if it is going well or not.
Well, Lawrence, on that note, we will let you go. We do appreciate this. I guess I've got to start paying attention to what is he doing right here? This is called the 3. What is this right here?
This is great for you. I mean, this is that's super. So, you watch what's going on in the court?
I'm trying to figure out what's going on the court now because
We
just
just
usually
ask
chat.
our Clipper fans on Twitter to shoot us what is going on so we can
But
regurgitate.
I'm going to leave you on this because I watch you guys, especially on the road, and you guys, I'm telling you, you guys are the best in the league.
Thank you.
Now when you bring Fratello, things, so you two are the best in the league.
He's watching back in Cleveland. You better text him.
He's taking notes right now. Mike is okay. Lawrence Frank said this. Okay,
Czar, we love you. Don't listen to
Czar.
Lawrence.
It's a T-neck sack thing.
Lawrence, we appreciate your time.
My
Thank
pleasure.
you very much
Appreciate
for
you guys
joining
so
us.
Thank you.
Clippers have jumped out here 49-29, 5:40 to play in this first half.
All right. Didn't mean to fade out Brian Sieman there, but that was Lawrence Frank in the first half last night on FanDuel TV with Brian Sieman and, of course, Jim Jackson. Really, really great interview. All the tough, important questions were asked, plus they had some fun. Obviously, great rapport with those guys. I texted Brian Sieman a second ago reluctantly. I told him, I have to say it was impressive stuff. So I think we picked apart everything we needed to there. I'm not saying there was anything groundbreaking because this is more on brand and on message with stuff Lawrence Frank has said over the summer with what the long-term plan is for this Clippers team. It is about the big picture view, upcoming seasons, but also they got James Harden and Kawhi Leonard. So if you can make moves to improve this season without hurting your future flexibility, you do it. And yeah, that's stuff we've talked about here. If you can take a swing at a guy that is on the younger side, and I've talked about this with Colin Sexton, can help you now and raise your ceiling, but also in the future because he's young and you don't have to give up a first round pick. Those are the type of situations you look for. Now, I don't know. You might have to with Colin Sexton. It's likely that they can get a first round pick for him. He's that good. But anyways, I don't know what Ross is talking about here. I'm thinking about the luxury tax, not the aprons. I'm referring to the non-taxpayer mid-level. They used the non-taxpayer mid-level on DJ. They already have had that available to them. So I don't know what he's talking about. It baffles me. Maybe you guys can help him out. Jonathan Ing is here. He's kind of our moderator. So the Clippers are taking on the Milwaukee Bucks tomorrow night. I just got a text from Carlo Jimenez regarding this. Tip-off is at 7:30. That will be game 5 in 7 days. And the Milwaukee Bucks are kind of peaking right now. They're playing really good basketball. As opposed to the Clippers, they really handled their business at home last night after being snowed in for 3 days in hotels in Milwaukee. Crazy situation there going on in the Midwest. But they beat up the Miami Heat, something good. The final score last night was 125-96. Milwaukee over the Heat at home in Milwaukee, I should say, not to be confusing there. They had a game postponed against the Pelicans because I don't think they could leave. So I haven't gotten an update today if they're already in LA or if they flew out after the game or what's going on. But I'm going to tell you this. They are 8-2 in their last 10 games. And if you look at the numbers on the season with Milwaukee, they are top 10 in offense and defense. 10th best offense, 8th best defense. But you look over the last 10 games, and they are improved in some ways. 5th best offense over that time. 3rd best defense. So last 10 games, 4th best overall net rating. What about the Clippers' last 10 games? Offensively, they've been 17th. Defensively, number 1 in the league. Better than OKC over the last 10 games. I think you can go back the last 14 games, yes, and the Clippers have the number one defense in the NBA. Carlo Jimenez pointed out Bucks since January 6th are second in offensive rating and third in defensive rating, and 8-1 over that span. So last 9 games, 8-1, and even better. They have progressively, incrementally been getting better and better out there. And we kind of expected this as the season went along after that slow start. I told most people that, or most people who would listen to me, I told anyone who would listen to me that I felt like Damian Lillard would have a better year than last season. And he got his normal offseason in, and he has looked very good movement wise. Sometimes with smaller guards, it can go quickly, and just efficiency out there. He's getting 25, 7 assists per game while shooting 45% from the field and 39% from the outside, as opposed to what they were getting from him last season, where he was shooting just 42% from the field and just 35% from three. So 4% better from the outside overall. That's the big difference. Now, when it comes to the Bucks, a lot of this hinges on Chris Middleton and his health situation, and he's only played 18 games so far. He hasn't been right for a couple of years. He's been a fraction of the player he was when they won it all in 2021, the season where I believe the Clippers would have won it all if they stayed healthy, but maybe the Brooklyn Nets can make the same claim. So Chris Middleton in 18 games so far, getting about 13 points per game, shooting 48% from the field and 37% from the outside. But in just looking at his past couple of seasons, it's just been tough for him. I believe it's just the same knee issue. 55 games played last season, getting 15 per game. But, he's a little bit older now. Now he's 33. So guys who are injury prone, and this applies to Kawhi and everybody else too. If you're injury prone when you're younger, you don't tend to stay healthier as you get older. It's really been since the last 2 years where they only played 33 games in the 22-23 season, and really the numbers fell off where he was shooting just 31% from the outside. So he is shooting about 38% from distance the last 2 seasons, but he's at 18 games played so far this year. And I should probably check out his status for tomorrow night. But that Bucks victory over the Miami Heat, where they just dismantled them last night, 125-96. Before that, they beat the 76ers. Before that, they beat the Toronto Raptors, the Magic, the Kings, the Knicks, the Magics, the Raptors. So they have had, during this stretch where they are 8-2 their last 10, 8-1 their last 9, they've gotten the Raptors twice. They've gotten the Magic twice, who are beat up. They've gotten the 76ers, who are having a lost season. The Kings have been playing better, and that was a good victory for them. But the game they lost was against the Knicks, and they lost 140-106. The level of competition, what I'm saying here is, hasn't been stellar for the Milwaukee Bucks, and you have to take that into consideration when you look at the numbers over just the last 10 games. That's all a part of this. On the season, though, if you look at rebounding percentage here, Milwaukee struggles. They're 18th in rebounding percentage. The Clippers on the year are 7th. That is a surprise. We're over the halfway point. It's real, guys. If there's one thing that has surprised me most about this team, it's not the defense being this good. It's the rebounding aiding their defense and making it this good, where they're the 4th best defensive rebounding team on the season, the Clippers. So Milwaukee, they're last in offensive rebounding percentage. The Clippers aren't great there. They're 20th, but Milwaukee is last. So I'm guessing they don't get a lot of second chance points. But what's interesting is they're first in defensive rebounding percentage, where the Clippers are 4th. So they are closing out a lot of possessions by getting those defensive rebounds. Best in the league, the Milwaukee Bucks there. That's something that you got to look at with the season as a whole, they are good. They are the best in the league when it comes to defensive rebounding. It's just the offensive rebounding that drags down their overall rebounding percentage is probably how I should put it. What about three-point shooting? Milwaukee's second best in the league, 39% from the outside. They take only, modern NBA, 36.5 three-pointers per game. The Clippers are now 15th at 36% from three. They take even less, 34 threes per game. What about some of the miscellaneous numbers out there? Actually, I should go to opponent three-point shooting. I want to see where that's at for the Milwaukee Bucks because the Clippers are the second best team when it comes to opponents' three-point percentage. Teams are only shooting, it's gone down the last couple of games, 33.8% from three against the Clippers. Milwaukee's good there, though, too. Opponents shooting just 35.2% from three against them. What about points in the paint? What about second chance points? Points off of turnovers. Remember, Clippers' second best team. Oh, my God, OKC. So the Clippers are the second best team in the league in points off of turnovers. Almost 20% of their points come off of turnovers because they get 20 points per game off of turnovers. The Oklahoma City Thunder get 23.4 points off of turnovers per game. They're 3 points better in that category, best in the league by far. Second chance points. I would not expect Milwaukee to be good here because remember, they are last in offensive rebounds. So, yep, they are 28th in second chance points, just 11.6 per game. The Clippers, they're not great. I told you they're not a great offensive rebounding team, but they're getting 13 second chance points per game. Fast break points. All right. So the Clippers, points off turnovers. A lot of those come in the fast break. They're seventh there, 17 per game. Excuse me. Too much diet soda. The Milwaukee Bucks, not a great team there. They're 28th in fast break points at 13.1. What about points in the paint? When you got the Greek Freak, you would expect to have some, but overall, Milwaukee's 26th there. They're only getting 43 points in the paint per game. Now, they're a very good three-point shooting team, second best in the league to offset that, but something of note, just 43 points in the paint per game. Milwaukee, the Clippers, 50 per game. That's 10th best in the league. Opponent points off of turnovers. All right. The Clippers aren't great there. They're giving up 18.7. Remember, they're getting 20 per game. The Milwaukee Bucks, they're better in that area. They're only giving up 17 points off of turnovers per game. Opponent second chance points. Clippers second best in the league. Now, that's because they clean the glass so well. Milwaukee, though, actually is better in defensive rebounding percentage, barely, but the Clippers are slightly better, barely, in opponent second chance points. They're second in the league, giving up 12.1 per game. Milwaukee is third, giving up 12.2 second chance points per game. Opponent fast break points. So transition defense is what we're looking at here. Clippers middle of the pack, giving up 15.6 fast break points per game, but they're getting 17. So you live with it. The Milwaukee Bucks, a little bit better, just giving up 15.3 fast break points per game. A little bit better with the transition defense in the Clippers. They're 12th. And then opponent points in the paint. Milwaukee must be good here because they're only scoring 43 per game, so they got to make up for that. Yeah, they're the third best when it comes to opponents' points in the paint. So it's tough to attack them. Lopez, Giannis, Bobby Portis, they got some beef there. They only give up 44.5 points in the paint to their opponents every night. Clippers opponent points in the paint, they're good. They're sixth. They're only giving up 45.8. So that's some of the rundown on what's going on with the Milwaukee Bucks. I do want to look at their last 10 games and see who's been hot shooting-wise, see who we have to pay attention to. I always enjoy doing this and setting the parameters here, which is just 10 games, to see who's coming in with a hot hand for the Milwaukee Bucks, because they have been better offensively and defensively over the last 10 games. Again, you do need to pay attention to the teams they have played over this stretch. It hasn't been exactly a murderer's row for the Milwaukee Bucks. So we'll go last 10 games for them. And let's see what these guys are averaging out there and who's been playing the best. Son of a bitch. I just put in, I put in versus Milwaukee. That is a user error. And I am that user making the error. Unless it was AI, Adam.
One of the worst trades they ever
unless
made.
it was
Every
Harold.
time I see Shea Gilgeous-Alexander play, wouldn't he look great
Harold,
in a Clipper uniform?
Harold. I didn't mean to play Harold in North Hollywood there. Now I do need AI, Adam. I do need some help.
I'm so lonely. Please help me.
Okay, so Giannis over his last 10 games. That's who we want to see here, where they are 8-2. Give me Giannis's numbers here, NBA.com. He's only getting 28.5 per game while shooting 60% from the field. I told you guys this last night, but he's almost become a forgotten man in the MVP race because they got off to a slow start, and Jokic and his numbers and SGA, they just seem to, everybody else gets lost in the shuffle next to those guys, even somebody like Giannis Antetokounmpo. He's having an outstanding season now at the age of 30. The Greek freak is 30 now. But last 10 games, 29, getting 10 boards, make it 12 boards, make it 13 boards. I don't want to short him, and 6 assists. So he's even been distributing so well. I want to see what he's at assist-wise on the season. But that may be a part of why they have been better on the offensive end, where he is finding others, making guys better, elevating the guys around him. On the season, he is averaging 6 assists per game. Now, last season, he was at 6.5. Guys do play off of him, but that's really impressive to me. Damian Lillard, last 10 games, 25 per game, right where he's at on the season, but he's shooting it even better. On the year, he's at 39% from three. Last 10 games, Dame is at 47% from three. What about Splash Mountain Brook Lopez? Last 10 games, 37% from three, 45% from the field. He's averaging, 12 and 5 boards. Just 5 boards per game. He does play on the outside a little bit more. Bobby Portis, last 10 games, 11 points per game, only shooting 30% from the outside. What about some of the ancillary characters? So Gary Trent Jr. was a really good, sneaky good pickup by them this season. He has been banged up, but he's played in 7 of the last 10 games. He's getting 11 points per game while shooting 56% from the field and 58% from the outside. Gary Trent Jr. has been hot as of late. That is something you have to watch for tomorrow night as I check the injury report and make sure that he's in for this one. Yeah, it's just Chris Middleton who's day-to-day. He was out for the game against the Heat. I would assume with that ankle injury, I guess he's been dealing with now. He will be back with this Clippers game, but AJ Green was also out Thursday against Miami, and he's played 8 of the last 10 games, and he was shooting 44% from three. There's another guy, if he plays, Taurean Prince, former Laker, last 10 games, shooting 49% from three. Another guy who can hurt you there. So Pat Connaughton, he hasn't been getting as much playing time. This team is a little bit deeper. He's just shooting 20% from three. He's played 5 of the last 10 games out there. So that's kind of the hot and cold, where guys are trending right now for the Milwaukee Bucks. We will get to some of your questions. What do we got here? I got to scroll up a little bit. A lot, actually. Drop salary for next year. They have to drop about $4 million. Okay, Ross is saying they have to drop about $4 million. Doing nothing would do that, but picking up new salaries would put them above the tax. Well, worry about next year. It's like they have an $11 million expiring contract in PJ Tucker. Now, he may get traded and they bring in more salary, and they still have to figure that out. But, I mean, there you go. There are easy answers. I'm not overly concerned about it. But what you were saying earlier seemed like you were saying, Ross, that they haven't been under the first apron. Ray said, any updates on Dunn? No. I assume the injury report hasn't come out yet, but I'd really like to see him guard Dame. Me too. All we know is pregame Coach Lue didn't seem overly concerned at all with Chris Dunn and that knee injury. Seemed like it was just a guy that he's been banged up and just needed some rest. G Master said, I just wanted to say something. This is our time. This is our year. Just enjoy the ride. This will be a special year. Salute. Sounds like Will Updike. Kaylee said, I still feel very optimistic about this game, even with the Bucks peaking. I feel more optimistic after looking at some of the teams the Bucks have beaten as of late. Garrett said, I remember the days of the Clippers owning Dame. Yeah, they went like 18-2 or something like that in a span against Dame and CJ in the 2-1-3 era over a few years, playing the Portland Trailblazers. Like, they just wrecked Damian Lillard. He had his worst numbers. CJ had low numbers too, but I think Dame in particular had his worst numbers against the Clippers those years in the 2-1-3 era. Now he gets to play with Giannis and can feast off of those advantages. Yeah, everybody is apparently. Giannis averaging 6 assists per game. I didn't realize it was that high, but that's the MVP numbers are there. Ralph said, if we make any trades, more than a backup anything, we need some shooting. Yes, but can you get the shooting without that guy being a liability defensively? People keep telling me Jordan Clarkson. It's like, well, he's a really bad rebounder. He's a really bad defender. Are you really a net positive if you bring in somebody who has weaknesses, glaring ones on one end, even though he can get hot on the offensive end? That's the stuff I think about. Garrett said, I like calling that the Eastern Conference stimulus package. I like calling that the Eastern Conference stimulus package. Feels like most East teams that have a hot streak, their schedule always looks the same. Don't want to discredit Milwaukee, but okay, I get what you're saying. They have played some lesser teams, and therefore their offensive and defensive rating are inflated for a reason the last 10 games. I think it's fair. Ross does point out what I just said. Once PJ's salary drops off, if they don't take on a salary, yes. Jonathan Ing pointed out, but we will have the taxpayer mid-level exception open. Ross said, okay, I don't want to get into too much of the cap talk like on Bobby Marks or Eric Pincus here. I might bring on around the trade deadline just to see where the Clippers cap situation and how it changes maybe at some point. Kaylee said Dame will be locked in the dungeon. Yes, if Chris Dunn plays, I mean, that's the perfect guy to guard Damian Lillard. All right. We've done an hour and 17 minutes here. Again, as a reminder, this episode of Clippers Talk brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. We got the promo code LAC and a referral link in the description of this episode. We've made it 112 days straight here on Clippers Talk. Appreciate you guys. We do have a Clips and Dip episode coming up tonight with the Big Three, myself, Chuck Mockler, and Big Will Updike. That's dropping later on tonight. Look forward to that. Look forward to tomorrow's game at the Dome. Tip-off 7:30. Clippers and Milwaukee Bucks. We'll have your pregame show right back here at 6:30. I'm Adam Moslin. Everyone out there, be safe. Love your neighbor. We will talk to you later.